Now this does not look friendly. I might just have to 2 feet this. Oh, this is probably the worst possible place for this to happen. Okay, no more chili peppers. Alright, I don't even know if we're 3/4 of the way through this thing yet, but I am whooped. This is the hardest riding that I've ever encountered, and it ain't getting any easier. And this is a bypass. Alright, so I'm heading back home. Embarrassingly, I did not finish the dual sport. It's not a dual sport event. This is a hard enduro for me. So I was way above my weight class, literally, in that event, and it was way over my head. So I took a couple of spills, and I was just finding it like super hard every step of the way. So definitely above my skill level a bit, I guess. Kind of didn't expect it to be that extreme. Most of those guys would probably not call that extreme, because they were just buzzing right through it, and it made me feel like I was doing something wrong, which maybe I was. But I had to bail, so I didn't do the last section of trail. I'd had enough. It was just kicking my rear end so bad that I just felt like if I kept going, I was probably...
Disappointingly enough, the video cut off. My GoPro battery went dead as I was explaining my defeat in the Quarry Run dual sport event. So I think I made it about 80 miles in, and it was 100 miles total. So there's a lot of footage missing from dead batteries and just trying to push through, not wanting to stop because I was so exhausted, so tired, and the last thing I was really concerned about was changing a GoPro battery or a memory card, and you know, trying to figure out that stuff on the side of the road. Time was running out. It was starting to, daylight was going down. Didn't have a lot of time left. There was a big dinner that was being held. I think that started at 5 o'clock, and by the time I reached mile 80 or so, it was like 4:30, and I said, if I have 20 more miles of going through that treacherous single track, and worse off is that on my roll sheet, the one thing that really put the nail in the coffin for me was when I rolled through and it said hardest section ahead, and it was like 16 miles worth of trails and single track and stuff that I had been through and struggled with all day. And I'm not a quitter, but I was ready to quit. So I took the bail out and headed back to the paddock. Funny story though is I took a wrong turn at that bailout, and I ended up riding about, I'd say, 8 miles down south the wrong way before I realized I was going the wrong way. So I had to ride 8 miles back and then another 4 or 5 miles back to camp. And I feel even stupider because I rode an extra 20 miles. So I put in 100 miles, but the last 16 or so of them were on the road. And I feel dumb because it's like I did 100 miles anyways, but not on the trails that I should have done. So I look back on it and wish that I would have pushed through and done it, but at the time, there's just no way, and I really felt like I was going to get hurt. I don't normally do that type of riding here in Florida. We're sugar sand riders, and up there, the terrain was just killing me, and that bike was not doing me any favors. It was so heavy for the job, so top heavy. All those slippery rocks were just sending the bike off in different directions. The suspension wasn't right for it. The flame out problem, stalling out, the gearing, everything about that bike, which was great in every other situation I've used it in, was just all wrong for that event. So I had to hit that bailout button. But looking back at the footage and watching the whole thing again while editing it, I really think that it was an experience that was worthwhile. I met 2 cool friends, Arturo and Nate. Nate was an absolute beast. He was going on that bike, the 300L, and I looked at it and I'm like, how in the world is this guy doing this on a 300L? Now I look back through the footage and think, well, maybe it was just a lighter bike and just a little bit smaller and easy to maneuver through that rough stuff. And he might have had the advantage on the smaller bike, whereas I was on a 450 RL that's high strung. It just wants to go. You hit that gas and this thing just starts spinning the wheel. Too much power, too much torque, not manageable enough. So a smaller bike might have been better for that job. And Arturo, he was with me, man. He was struggling too, and he hit a bailout button earlier than I did. So we split up, I think at about mile 65 or so, and I think Arturo went back, and I told Nate, don't wait for me, go forward, because I'm just going to poke through it. He went forward, and I bailed out about mile 80 or so. Nate eventually made it back a little bit later, and I kept in touch with the 2 guys, and I said, I'm not coming back for day 2. There's no way that I can do this. And day 2 is said to be even a little bit more difficult. So I said, I can't do it. Take the rest of my money. It's a good donation to your cause, Bear Creek Sportsmen. It was an awesome event. I just had the wrong tool for the job. So it's awesome that those guys did that, and they really pushed their boundaries. I think Arturo had only been riding for a year. Nate was an experienced rider. He rode better than me. It was pretty impressive what he was able to do on that bike. Pretty impressive that the Hondas can make it through that. I'm a big Honda fan, as evidenced by my shirt here, and I look back at it as I don't think that CRF 450 RL or that 300L really is designed for that, nor should they have made it through that sort of terrain, but they did. They did. So that's a pretty good testament to the strength and the build quality of those Hondas. So if you're thinking about a Honda and wondering what it can do, hopefully this video inspires you and solidifies a decision on if that bike can do it or not. Although my review of the 450 RL at the end is it's probably not the right tool for most dual sporting jobs. If you're hitting some road and transiting through some trails and you're doing some light, easygoing trails, so like in skiing terms, if you're going to the green slope, the beginner trails, or you're going to the blue squares, the intermediates, 450 RL is probably okay. But if you touch any sort of advanced terrain or single tracks or anything with tight turns or hill climbs, slippery rocks, wet roots, then the 450 RL is not going to be the right thing for the job. Watching those 2 strokes just lugging up that hill It's basically like they put it in first or second gear and it barely even had to hit the gas, and those guys were just sitting on that seat letting the thing pull them up like a tractor. And now having a 300 two-stroke, I could say that it's probably the only tool for that job. So if anybody's out there riding anything less than that 300 two-stroke, I give you credit, man, because that's a tough rally to do on a bike that is high-strung or wants to go fast. That 300 two-stroke just wants to pull you through stuff. So maybe one day I will go back with my 300 two-stroke. I'll put a license plate on my backpack like all those other dudes had, tape a flashlight to the front, do whatever I got to do to make that bike street legal, and I might tackle this event again. So I hope you enjoyed this video series. I had a lot of fun rewatching all this footage, although it was probably a year and a half later before I edited it. I looked back, I was getting anxiety about the trials and tribulations I was going through, reliving it. But as I look back, it was fun. It was a memorable experience. And if you're a woods rider or you're very competent and you want a challenge as far as single track and terrain and just about everything you can think of, mark on your calendar that Bear Creek Sportsmen Quarry Run. It's in early August in upstate New York every year. It's an awesome event. You get 200 miles if you can make it. And they've actually updated their website. The FAQ now explains a little bit more about it, and it didn't say this when I was doing the research, but basically it says the bike of choice is essentially a 300 two-stroke, and it doesn't say much about street legality and stuff anymore. So it's almost like they read my mind, like saying, "Oh, geez, this guy thought it was supposed to be this way, and he shows up and realizes he's spent $12,000 on the wrong bike for the job. That sucks." And they've kind of elaborated a bit more on the expectations and how tough it is. Even saying, if you make it to this section, it's called sink or swim, and I think that's where I bailed out. If you make it this far, you've done well. Only 10% of the riders actually make it all the way through, and if you do, you're a legend, right? So they even admit how tough this event is, and that makes me feel good looking back, thinking that it is a very tough event, and it's not just me that kind of flamed out. So I look at it as I did okay, and if I go back with the right bike, I should hopefully probably have a chance of finishing it. So with that, I had a lot of fun making this. I hope you had a lot of fun watching it. Comment, let me know what you thought. Let me know if you've done this event. Let me know if you're going to do this event. Hopefully this inspires you, sets you in the right direction. Secret is, get a 300 two-stroke for this event. If you can get a KTM or Husky and have the certificate of origin, not say off-highway vehicle, then you can go throw a plate on it. You're good to go. That's the cheat code. Talk to your dealer when buying one, or find one that's already plated, and that's going to be your weapon of choice. So that's it. Thanks for watching again. Hope you subscribe. Stick in there. I have a lot of videos coming up on some new bikes that I have, including the 300. So we'll see you soon.